Hey guys, it's Casey and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to my house, which is filthy at the moment. I just, about an hour ago, left my mental health hold at Ash's house in order to return home. And before I did that, I made sure that his house was spotless because he's currently on the night shift. It's a Friday morning. He's currently on the night shift and will be home in about 2 hours, and I didn't want to leave him a huge mess. And so I cleaned that up, but my own house is less than in ideal hygiene conditions, especially considering the fact that I have not been home for almost 2 weeks, 10 days, and it just kind of got left like this, which is really, really gross. Nonetheless, I am back here in my filthy house at the moment. It is 7:30 in the morning. Ash, like I said, had not arrived home when I left. I did clean up his house, but he hadn't arrived home. And that is not by design. That's not because I thought that he didn't want to see me. Like, I needed to clean up and get out before he got home because we were so sick of each other. No, I could have very happily remained there for another 2 weeks because we were having the best time. We were watching all the HBO shows. We watched A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which was adorable. It was the cutest show I've ever seen, which is saying something because if you watch my channel before, you know I really struggle to digest fantasy media because of my own background, but I loved it. We watched the first several episodes of Married at First Sight Australia, the new season, which we're both obsessed with at the moment. We watched the first episode of Survivor, the new season of Survivor, and we watched The Pit, which I have opinions on, but I will get into that later. I had to leave so early, get up and go, because I am about to head off onto a mini road trip because it just so happens I got a phone call late last night after dinner that my first ever handler that I had in the modern West is currently at our local American military base. And by local, I'm talking in Australian outback terms, so it's a 4-hour drive down the road. So I'm going to head out there. I'm going to go visit him. He is, like I said, he is the first handler that I ever had in the modern West when I was living at a base in South Carolina, in Charleston, South Carolina, when I first got here. And he was the one who stayed with me for the first 13 weeks that I was in the modern West and pretty much taught me everything that I needed to know. And he just so happens to be one of the hottest guys I have ever seen in the modern West, which is saying something because he is he's not very old, but he is older. Like, he's going on 50. I think he's 49 now. And he is still one of the most attractive men that I've ever seen here, and he very much set my expectations to a wildly higher level of how men in the modern West were going to look, and they don't look like that. And so I'm going to go visit him. I'm going to see if he wants to come back to my town because I want to introduce him to Nate, because Nate does not believe me that a 49-year-old man can be that hot. And so in order to do that, I need to go and get ready to embark on that journey, on that side quest, on that miniature road trip. I'm not going to clean my house. I'm going to clean myself. I'm not going to clean the house because I've already cleaned one house this morning. And so the abode that is my home is just going to have to fester in its own filth for a little bit longer until I can get around to it eventually. Probably tonight, or if not tonight, then tomorrow. But huzzah!
A few moments later.
I'm so sick. I am so sick. It's not even funny at this point in time. I need to clip my hair back. I'm going to use these that I got at Halloween 2 years ago, and they've been languishing in the back of my car ever since, but they're cute. Actually, I take it back. That is even worse than not having a clip in my hair, so we're just gonna run with terrible, terrible hair at the moment. But yeah, I am so sick, and I have been sick for the past 2 weeks. I feel like I am perpetually 8 weeks pregnant, which is the single worst feeling that a woman could ever experience. It's like the love child between a really mild hangover that's lingering after you got off your face drunk 3 days prior, and also the entail of the flu. Combine those two things together, mix them around and spit them out on the table, and that is what being 8 weeks pregnant feels like if you've never had the pleasure of experiencing it for yourself, which unfortunately I can't say that I haven't, because I have been 8 weeks pregnant 4 times in my life, and each time has been miserable. So just trust me when I say that it is a terrible, terrible feeling. It's because of the stupid doll that Dress Levesque made me take. This belonged to my daughter when she was alive, and she used to take this everywhere. But yeah, that's the reason. I suspect that is the reason why I feel like I am perpetually 8 weeks pregnant. Not because I am perpetually 8 weeks pregnant. I am not pregnant at the moment. Thank God. But that is a video for later this week. Today took a turn. Not necessarily for the better, not necessarily for the worse, but just sideways, basically. First of all, my DARPA handler, my original one, who I went with today, he got married in 2021, but he didn't invite me to the wedding. He did, however, invite my friend Tristan to his wedding. And Tristan is one who told me that my handler got married, but my handler wasn't aware that I was aware that he got married, and so I just wanted to see how long it would take him to bring it up to me and say, hey, this is what happened. Spoiler alert, he never actually did, and so I ended up being the one to say, hey, I'm aware that this happened. And he's like, how did you know? And I'm like, well, sir, I am the godfather. I have eyes everywhere. And also, you should be aware that Tristan cannot keep his mouth shut to save his life. That is how I know. And he tried to calm the situation down by saying that it was just this quiet, small, private spur of the moment affair. And I was like, well, how small can it possibly have been if Tristan was there? How do you invite Tristan and not me to your wedding? You barely even know Tristan. So how small can it be if he's there and I'm not? So that just kind of set the mood for the entire day. And once I have been set off on the wrong foot, everything else that follows just tends to be a downhill stumble in socks. The original plan was that I was going to drive to the army base and meet him there, but then the plan changed and he got in a helicopter and he went to the big town and I drove to the big town instead, which is better. It shaved an hour and a half off the journey, which, you know, is a good thing. Met him there, we went to a bookshop. So he brought me the books that he brought me. He brought me like 6 different books. And then he also brought me lunch, which is not cheap when you go to a MasterChef runner-up's restaurant in the middle of the Australian outback. Because apparently people, it's a stop on people's journeys. They apparently come from all over while they're on their little caravan journeys and stop there. I'm like, well, that's really cruddy. I personally wouldn't want to stop in my shitty little town for any reason, let alone a MasterChef reality TV show winner's restaurant that serves sandwiches, but each to their own, I guess. But he bribed me with the books and then with the lunch, and I guess he felt really guilty because I was acting really petulant because he didn't invite me to his wedding. So he's like, well, do you want a PlayStation 5? I will buy you a PlayStation 5. I was like, no, I can't be bribed. I'm a free agent. If you don't like the way that I am, then that's just too damn bad. You shouldn't do things like not invite me to your wedding, which is not true. I absolutely can be bribed by a PlayStation 5. It's just that I'm currently in the process of investigating buying one for myself at the moment, and it's just not the right time for me to have a PlayStation 5 because there's like 6 different games that are each like 30 hours long that if I had a PlayStation 5, I would just play and play and play with no other responsibilities in my life getting the attention that they deserve. And so it's something that's on the back burner at the moment, and I'm going to have to carve out some time to actually do that with annual leave. So it's something that it's just gonna have to wait a few months. But no, I was like, no, I can't be bribed. We leave the restaurant and my handler says I need to go and talk to Ronald. It's expected. It is an arranged, scheduled meeting. I'm like, what? Why would anybody want to come to my town to meet Ronald of all people? Like, ew, no. Which is exactly why he didn't tell me why he was coming to the town in the first place, because if he had, I would have refused to be chauffeur and there's no taxis in this town. So I don't know what he would have done. Ronald would have sent someone, I'm sure. But I'm like, have you ever met Ronald before? And he's like, no, I've never met him in the flesh. I'm like, yeah, no, super. And so I gave him the Ronald crash course. Rule number 1, do not touch him under any circumstances. I don't care if he starts choking to death on one of his imported artisan olives, and the only way to save him is with a Heimlich. Let him go. Light a candle. The universe will thank you for it. He will offer you his hand to shake. Do not take it. This is not a test in business manners. This is a test in self-preservation. Embrace your inner weeb and bow to him if you must. Just don't make skin-to-skin contact. Rule number 2, never ever make a deal with him. Ronald deals in favours. That is his whole charade. But his favours come with strings attached that you can't see until they're already wrapped 3 times around your throat. Regardless of how he presents it to you or how mundane it might sound, he does not offer favours casually. He will call those favours in, and when he does, you will do it. and you will do it exactly as he asks it, or you will die. There's no ifs or buts about it. These two things are the very clear, very reasonable warnings that I give to anybody that I even minutely like who are about to encounter Ronald in the flesh for the very first time. And he just sits there taking it all in with, yeah, sure, of course, I hear what you're saying, which means that he's absolutely not taking in anything that I'm saying. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Whatever. If this is the way that you want it to be, when it comes back to bite you in the butt, don't say that I didn't warn you, because I absolutely did warn you, but you're a big, strong, almost 50-year-old DARPA agent who considers himself to be a very good person, which he is a very good person and a very attractive person, but still, nonetheless, I'm sure that you can take care of yourself. You don't need my warnings. It's not like I've been dealing with Ronald forever. We pull around the corner to go to where Ronald's house is, and I forgot what weekend it is. Every single year at the start of autumn, Ronald has this garden competition that he hosts. It's like a big local event, and he opens up his private property to the public because he has this huge, gorgeous, manicured, curated garden that he puts a lot of, well, he doesn't do anything. The people that are in his service put a lot of effort into, and it's got like this huge, ginormous modern greenhouse and his own salmon farm where he breeds salmon that he eats, and he only eats that specific salmon because he's a loser. And he's also got a poison garden, you know, for dramatic effect. It's objectively stunning, I can admit that much. It reminds me a lot of my own grandmother's garden when I was a child, because my grandmother also had like a really elaborate garden. It's beautiful. I wish that I could go in there more, but I'm not going in there. Like, Ronald would let me go in there. I'm just like, no, I'm not going in there because I want as little to do with Ronald as cosmically possible. But people come from all over, and there are heaps of people entering their garden designs into the competition because he's actually very generous. Again, I can admit that. He's very, very generous with the prizes that he gives out because he's a freaking billionaire. He should be. And there are different categories. So there's like, schools can enter their garden designs, and old people can enter their garden designs, and amateurs, professionals, so on and so forth. And it's a whole affair. There is live performances, and there's food trucks, and there's market stalls. There's a whole circus. There is so much going on, and the people in town just throw over it all year long, and nobody thrusts over it more than Ronald because it's his opportunity to strut around the place like he's the belle of the ball. I personally have never attended one of these open garden events before because, like I said, I try to keep my contact with Ronald as minimum as legally and cosmically allowed, which is unfortunately not as much as I would like. And to be honest, I just don't have any interest in watching people line up to kiss his billionaire butt and sing him praises about how fabulous he is, because he is not fabulous. He is the least fabulous person that I have ever met. But anyway, I went this year because, well, I was already there and my handler had to go into Ronald's house to talk to him, which is stupid because Ronald, in comparison to his garden, has got the smallest house in the history of the world. It makes me laugh every single time that I think about it. So they were in there for a good hour and a half, and so I was walking around the garden and looking at everything that was going on. It's really nice. It was objectively really, really pretty. And it looked fun. If you had small children, or you were an old lady, or you had a family and just wanted to walk through some beautiful gardens with some mature trees and flower beds, and he's got like a fern house. In fact, I think he's got 2 fern houses, and he's got a huge greenhouse that everyone was like lining up to get into. I'm like, well, I'm not lining up to get in there. I don't want to see what's going on in there. He did cage off the poison garden, which I think was a smart idea. So my handler comes out, we get back in my car, and the moment that I pull out of the car park to drive home, he starts hitting me with 20 questions about how satisfied I am in my life out here. Like, are you happy? Do you feel like your skills are being utilized enough? Do you want to do more training? Are you interested in this university, that university? Would you prefer to move back to London, to South Carolina, to San Francisco, to Venice, anywhere that you want? Is there anything that we can do that will improve your satisfaction in the life that you're living out here? And I was like, oh my God, like, what has Ronald told you? Like, what is going on here? And he goes, well, it's not so much Ronald, it's the reason that I came out here is that we are investigating laser wart. Laser wart. You're in my car right now asking me 20 questions about how satisfied I am in life because of laser wart? It's never what you think is gonna be. Because yeah, we're investigating laser wart at the moment. We're trying to find Roman vessels that have sunk over the years, well, obviously in the Roman Empire, but sunken Roman vessels off the coast of Libya and hope that we can find lead containers that have remnants of laser wart in it and we can bioengineer it from there. And so they were trying to strike a discussion with Ronald about chartering his mega yacht, because Ronald has this friggin' yacht. I don't know why Ronald has a yacht, because he can't leave the town, but he brought this mega yacht back in 2021, and it's part luxury yacht and part scientific vessel, and he charters it out to like a lot of different companies. So he's chartered it out to like the Royal Navy and Google Earth, and James Cameron's got all the amenities that you would expect in a usual mega yacht, but it's also got a working lab on board, and it's got a submarine, and it's got a dive center with a hyperbaric chamber. So it's got all these things that make it very, very useful for scientific companies to charter out, and that's usually who does charter it out. But $3 million a week, mind you. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's great. I'm glad that you could sort that out with Ronald. I hope you didn't make a fucking deal with him, but if you did, that's your business. It's none of mine. He looks me in the eyes and he says to me, well, if we did charter the yacht and we did decide that we were going to pursue this investigation into laser wart, would you be interested in joining the team? And I was like, no. Absolutely not, for a variety of reasons. One, on a personal level, Ronald is the reason that I was separated from my child from the age when she was 6 months old to she was 17 months old. So I missed that entire chunk, and that was entirely down to Ronald and his bad behavior. So under no circumstances would I ever sign my name onto a project in which I would have to be associated with him, even if that association ended with chartering his yacht. Second, A can't hold Hatra and Samuel responsible for everything bad that went wrong in his life, and so by default he kind of defaults to blaming Ronald, even though technically it wasn't directly Ronald's fault, but it was vicariously Ronald's fault, and so anything that Ronald sticks his fingers into tends to go poorly, and I'm not stupid enough to sign myself up for that. Number 3, I have got zero interest in traveling your horrible, dirty, trash-filled oceans and looking at them without anything else on the horizon for 3 months straight. If I was interested in doing that, I'd already be doing that because I'm balls deep into a research project into orcas who live in said ocean, but I'm not interested in doing that. 4, I am not a bioengineer, and even if I was, you don't currently have the CRISPR technology in order to do the thing that you want to do. I don't have any moral quandrum of you trying to do it. It makes no difference in the long run, and if I knew where laser wart was, I would tell you where it is, but I don't. But again, I'm not a bioengineer. So number 5, and most importantly to this conversation, I am not a team player in any sense of the word. I cannot work under a research leader. I need to be the research head if I was to take this role on. And like I said, I am not a bioengineer, so I would never be the lab leader. But I would need to be. Not only would I need to be the leader, I would need to have full authority to be able to handpick who is on my team, because I can't work with stupid people. And everyone that I encounter, at least 95% of the people that I encounter here in the modern West, are stupid, regardless of their qualifications. And you're never going to allow me to be the leader of this research project. You certainly have one in mind already, and it's very unlikely that I am going to respect their authority over me, because I can't respect the authority of anybody over me unless they prove themselves to be more smarter and capable than I am. And very rarely do I encounter somebody who is more capable than I am. Very rarely do I encounter somebody who is even on the same level that I am. So it's just going to end poorly across the board for everybody involved if I was to do this. Like I said this morning, okay, circling back to what I said this morning, while I was at Ash's house for these past 2 weeks, him and I, we sat down and we watched The Pit on HBO, and I hated it. I hated it so much. Not because it wasn't realistic. It was quite realistic to how an ER functions, and I think it's very good in that way, but I also think it's very voyeuristic in that way, and I just find it weird. I find it boring because it's what I work in, but I find it weird that people sit down and they watch it when it looks like that, because you would never watch The Office if they stripped all the jokes away and it was just Pam standing at a photocopier, photocopying the mailing out list and placing it on everyone's desk. And that's basically what The Pit is. No, the primary reason that I hate The Pit is because they're all idiots. Across the board, every single one of them are idiots and whiny, and I would struggle to work in that environment so badly. It made me appreciate, I know I complain a lot about my shitty little hospital, it made me appreciate that I work here and not in an inner city hospital. Well, in the pit, they were stupid. How are you going to have someone come in, a woman come in, 10 days postpartum with a fever and not test her for postpartum complications? I can't deal with that shit. And then you have the stupid, and if you watched my videos before, you know I really struggle with interns and residents a lot. And student doctors, I couldn't do it, but it would be a mess. It would be a real big, messy mess, except for Dr. Mel King. Dr. Mel King can come work at my hospital anytime. She is so cute. She's so good at what she does. She's so passionate and she's so knowledgeable. She wasn't dumb. Everybody else in that show though, including the main dude, I don't remember his name, Dr. Robbie, that was his name. He was just whiny, like shut up. I legitimately would have gotten into a physical altercation with Dr. Robbie by lunchtime that first day because he's just the worst kind of doctor. He was hypocritical. He was rude. He broke the rules whenever he wanted to break the rules, but God forbid anyone else does. He could yell and scream and swear at his students, but God forbid anyone else does under stress. Ooh, he's under so much stress. Everyone is under stress. Pull your shit together, mate. Pull it together. He's the worst kind of doctor. He's a fake, nice doctor, and they are the worst kind of doctors to work with. They are the ones with a God complex, and they are the ones that make mistakes because they think that they're above any critique. They think that they are above learning. They think that they know all the answers, and whenever you work with someone who is convinced that they have all the answers in life, that's when mistakes start to happen. Anyway, do you want to see really quickly before I go what DARPA brought me with their own money, with the American tax dollars? He's really cute. He's called a Punchkins. It says, I like my horror sinister and disturbing. He's got little feet. He's got a little book tag in the front. Oh, I love him. And then on the back side, it says, sleep with the lights on. Ooh, I love him. He's really cute. And then I got this book, which I've been wanting to read for ages. It is a collection of 3 short stories about severe mental health crises. Yeah, I got that. I got this, which is The Wax Child, which is a historical horror book about the witch trials and a woman who made a child out of wax. These were really, really short. I could probably finish them in about a night, both of them. I got this one. I don't know what it's about. My handler actually grabbed this one and is like, well, they're pushing it really, really hard. I'm like, that does not mean that it's a good book. But I think it's by a local author, like not local to me, but an Australian author. So I got that, and then I took the plunge and I got this. This is House of Leaves, and if you don't know what House of Leaves is, well, this is not a traditional book. This is an experience. You need to buy the actual copy of the book because it is an unconventional book. So you open the first pages and they just look like normal books in a bit of a weird font, right? Then flipping through it, and it's very strange in its setup. Some pages are normal, and then you've got pages like this where you've got to read these lines all together and then the stuff in the box all together, and it's just very strangely set out. I've been very intimidated to pick it up for a while, partly because it is so oddly laid out, and I suspect it's going to take me like 2 months to read it from start to finish, but also because it costs $70. And I was like, I'm not sure if I want to financially invest that much money into this book at this point in time. But since DARPA was paying, I was like, well, there's never been a better point in time in which to invest in this. But yeah, that was my afternoon with DARPA. My handler is not here right now. That's because he was like, well, can I stay at your house? Like, I need to stay here for a couple of days. Can I stay at your house? I was like, sure, I can feed and house you, but I can't come to your wedding. We will have a sleepover then, and maybe he wants to watch The Pit, or maybe not. Maybe we will watch Survivor and RuPaul's Drag Race because they're both out this weekend as well. Who knows? Time will tell. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. This is Katie signing off for the night. As always, stay weird out there, stay safe, and have a productive evening. Good night.